Calvin T. Mann, leading Emmy, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to EMIYTV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Right. Oh, that boy got on that fresh from the locker room NBA championship t-shirt. Right out the locker room. One of my boys, my cousin, works for the Nuggets, made sure I got me one. So it's the locker room edition. And I'm rocking it in this mild, cool weather. Kind of like that. And just really feeling good. So today, I'm going in today. You can call in any father out there that felt a little something. Today's topic is about Kirk Franklin's Father's Day. I'm going in by myself, so you can call in 313. What's that number? 313-266 2811. Right, and so I'm excited to really get into this because what happened was my friend and brother Doc posted and tagged and talked about it Thursday, and it was just in a way, right. So for those of you who haven't seen it, Kirk Franklin has his documentary out here, and he literally you don't want to miss this documentary, in my opinion. If you're a father, if you've been neglected from your kids, if you don't understand the model, this is if you've been denied access to your fatherhood, if you feel like that you don't know who your father really is, this is a story that is going to impact you, but it is a story and a documentary that is going to inspire you. For me, I've been saying for months now, a fatherhood revolution is brewing. Speaking to the different fatherhood practitioners that I know from across the country, as well as some brothers that's local, and sitting on the fatherhood policy group right here in the local area, for me, it is my job is to raise the value on fatherhood, period. The reason why we had Good Fathers Only was to celebrate dads, and we did that. So we did 11 straight years in the Labor Day parade celebrating fatherhood and families, fathers that lead their families. We've done prostate cancer, colon cancer. So we've done these things over the years about fatherhood. Released 2 books. I'm going to officially do a book signing sometime in October for my children's book and my 2 fatherhood books. And frankly, I'm just crazy about how we have not valued the fathers. So, and that started when we didn't value the boys. So in my opinion, and from my work, 38 years, you can contradict. You can say some things that you don't want. You can say some things that, Cal, I disagree with you, or you can have an opinion. I'm good with all of that. I know in my work, I know in my research, I know in my understanding what my job to do for fatherhood. And that's what we're going to do. But today, I left it open. And like I said, anybody can call in. You can have this conversation. But the Father's Day Kirk Franklin edition was huge on so many levels. And I think this is a conversation that has to be had, because you're not in the position of understanding how important it is for dads. And the real piece is because of the culture and the environment around fatherhood is not good for dads. Right? And so to really get into this conversation, one, again, I'm going to make it clear. I'll open up the door. Anybody can call in. But this fatherhood piece also goes out and goes beyond to the daughters as well. The other thing that I really highlighted earlier today on the morning show, my birthday party was Saturday, and every man that came to my birthday party was a good father. And what it did for me in evaluating the room, right? Because it was important to me. This was my very first birthday party, first one I ever had. We had an old man cipher where he put on the beat and all the old men got up and grabbed the microphone and called themselves rappers. We laughed hard. There were a lot of couples and people that frankly came and showed me love. And what it did for me, I won't share, other than the fact that I know that I'm loved. But for those that didn't show just because you didn't feel like it or whatever the case, that's on you. We had a ball. We had some good food. Shout out to the Crab House. And we'll be using and paying them even more for some other events. Everybody has called and talked about the food. And that's just where I want to go with this. But first of all, if you haven't seen it, you need to go to YouTube, right? And literally watch Kirk Franklin's documentary. And I'm going to tell you, Kirk Franklin, frankly, probably blew the lid off something that has impacted thousands of people, but because we, if not millions, because we didn't value the exchange, right? We don't necessarily talk about it. We have my dad and we downplay it, right? And dads are just ultimately important and should be celebrated on the same level that you would celebrate some moms. Y'all call men deadbeat dads. There are millions, right? Thousands of deadbeat moms, right? We got to understand that, because there are a lot of things that go into place that you don't know. Like, we're so accustomed to saying that he's missing. The father is missing. There are a lot of men that's in their kids' lives that don't ever even talk about it because they know you don't care. There are tons of boys out here who have access to their dads, don't even know how to celebrate, don't go talk to them because they're afraid of how it will make their mothers feel. And there are tons and tons of children out here who know their dads are literally across the street, as was detailed in the show, literally across the street. And frankly, again, denied access because of the relationship. I don't go across the street because I've been angry. All of that is played out in this documentary. But more importantly, he inspired me even more so to acknowledge my dad, right, and my legacy and where I come from. And because I already do that, but it was important. So this weekend at my photo shoot, because my wife gave me a photo shoot for my birthday, I had one of my father's albums in my hand, taking the picture. And it was important to me, right? It was important to me because I continue the process of raising, again, the value, the noise around fatherhood. There are tons of men, tons of groups out here that we're multiplying. So at some point, it'd be nice for us to come together and change some of these policies, right? That is beneficial to the family, not just beneficial to self. We got to get out of giving a man every other weekend. That's maybe 30 some hours with his own child, when we know that that's a setup, because 30 some hours with a father is really nothing. The court is helping, and I say this all the time in the same room, with this policy, the court is helping the corporations that eat off these kids, right? You're helping the juvenile. You're helping, right? Because you only giving me every other weekend. In between the time, fathers are suffering from you, the other parent, planning stuff on the days because he only got every other weekend. So you want to know what happened to the dad. There's so much distance created because what happens is I'm not attached. After a while of being denied, after a while of just every other weekend, it's always some type of game, it's always something. After a while, you can call me deadbeat, but the real side of the story is, it turns out, I'm not really the problem. I'm not really the problem. I'm the solution. And so me fighting you to gain access to my children, right? Particular, there are men I know right now, shout out to Jay Morgan, who gave up his time, right? Consistently for his 3 daughters. There are men out here who didn't go coaching for their children. There are men who sacrificed, put themselves in the hole. There are men who took jobs less than what they even were making to be involved in the child's life. There are stories all across the internet about fathers who have sacrificed because it was not visual. Right? We were on channel 2, 4, and 7, maybe the Huxtables, right? And now everybody wants to, everybody has an issue in these areas for the same thing, drug use and all of that. Where we talk about Bill Cosby, and let's get it understood, Bill Cosby issues is Bill Cosby issues. But Bill Cosby's issue is not a fatherhood issue. You're not going to put that on us as fathers. So we can acknowledge Bill Cosby as a television dad, right? Because he represented an example that we weren't exposed to. So we can celebrate the Bill Cosby as a dad on television, right? There are a lot of images on television, right, that behind the scenes, the people are not necessarily of great character. But at the same time, it's funny how you could be you can be prostituted, you're forgiven. You could be bastardized, you're forgiven. We got a number of topics when it comes to fathers. His problem is worse. And he's toxic, and it's toxic masculinity. And if they put some money for it, and if they put some money over there to it, everybody suddenly, this is a solution, right? Because there's some money over to it, and you start speaking that. And because you're speaking that, you're creating that. We are a culture that cannot, this society doesn't understand how manifesting words toward dads and how important it is. This is why Good Fathers Only, when Good Fathers Only was started in 2008, it was because that's all I knew. I wanted to know good fathers because I needed them to learn from. Now, in that process, I was called all kind of names. I've been talked about like the average dad. As soon as you split up from anybody, emotional people are going to say emotional things. Right? Where you can't really be responding to that as a father, because instantly that you take and split us up, the system says that the father goes automatically to the woman. But here's the great thing. Here's the story behind the Kirk Franklin thing. Kirk Franklin has made it known that he was adopted. He was adopted by his own people. I think it was aunt or somebody that took him in, right? And so because, he was in the system, somebody went and got him. Now, that's how he grew up. Now, let's think about it. We always talk about, right, everybody like, Kirk Franklin, he feminine, right? We got all these little things, right? And now you understand where it comes from, right? Because that's what he's been exposed to. If you expose a boy to more of an feminine environment, he will take on some characteristics, or if not, right? And it's real. But we continuously, as men, have to fight to get into our sons' lives because the enemy knows that you care about your son. So this is the way I'm going to hurt you. But the truth of the matter is you destroy the kid. Kirk Franklin just happened to be blessed to be able to go and get on a piano and learn and give God his all. Now, I'm going to tell you this story blew me away because men, we always say, Monique, as men, I can bring this room, I can fill this room up with men. And as soon as I asked them this question, they're going to respond the same way. I said, I could literally say, as a father and a person that's involved with your woman, will she or is she accountable, or does she have a classic case of avoidance in dealing with the issue when she is wrong? And every man in the room gonna go, she'll take that lie to her grave. She will take that lie to her grave. Now, this ain't every woman, but the process is that men, we know this is what we're dealing with. So in the documentary, when he came in the room with the DNA test, right, and he said, it says 99%. Right behind that, I swear on everything, there is no way. You going against science. An actual DNA test, you going to go against that. This test has set thousands of people free from being incarcerated in this raggedy prison for they make money off of people. Thousands of people. One DNA test is, period. This is from my doctor. Here's the DNA test. There's no way this man could be your father. So they have to take another DNA test. They take the second DNA test. Mind you, and this happens a lot, but we don't talk about it. That man hadn't seen his biological mother in 23 years. 23 years he has not had no interest of being face to face with his biological mother. The other thing that was heartbreaking was he hated a man that he was told was the father without proof and had to bury this man as if this was his father. And it turns out, like he said, he hated this man. So how many young boys out here right now don't have access to their father, being denied access, right? You never gonna go see your daddy, you know, right, in the back of your mind. Or girls, where my daddy at, the whole nine. When we split up, the child is the goal of destruction. See, when we split up, that's not supposed to be the case. But between the two of us, if we can't get on the same page, the child is the direct result of the destruction between the two. And this boy was like a million boys. The foster care is full of boys right now and girls. We don't want to take care of them or nothing. When you hear these stories, because that's another board I sit at, the foster care board, when you hear these stories about these kids in the foster care, CPS, wherever, juvenile, when I worked in the juvenile, hey man, I know. Oh man, dudes had pictures, Monique, of their fathers who were in jail. They had pictures of their fathers on the wall in the cells. And at one point in time during this process back in 2010, when I was working in the system, they had recommended that young boys not see their fathers in jail because they would go into acting out to go where he was. But we don't understand what we are doing as a culture, right? This is just a culture. The acceptance of the black on black crime. You make up 12%. Your culture cannot be accepting a murder rate. You have not grown. What is the biggest contributor to the murder rate in the black on black crime? The father. The missing father. The absence of the father. The father could be down the street, around the corner. The father could be in the house. as a friend. You know what I mean? Like it's that bad. But what our children really need, and again, this Kirk Franklin, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to tell y'all, you need to go see it, because I sent it to my son, and my son is working on a thing called No Dads. My oldest boy is working on something called No Dads. It's for people who believe or feel like they didn't have. Right? Because even he, as a young man, because he spent a lot of time with his mom, he spent a lot of time with his dad, where he spent majority of his time, he'd been trying to figure out. So he doesn't necessarily have a full-blown history in his head. He said, well, you was there for sports, you know. I was at the school, everything. But you don't take that in, and that bothers him, right? That he feels like that was the process. And he says it, that there was innuendos that, you know, it was always set up as, if I go to my dad, it's the worst place for me to go. And that's how he felt. And then me and him, during COVID, we got on because of COVID, we got on the internet, we got on YouTube and did a thing called Got Pops. And we was just talking on the internet between the two of us and recording it on YouTube just to have the conversations. And we did it around any and every topic he wanted to talk about. Because he really is trying to get to know his dad on an intimate level. Now, I can tell you that changed, because now he got a coworker who's the same sign, and the coworker like, man, I've been listening to the conversation with your daddy, man. I love your daddy. Like, he has helped me. You got a cold father. And he like, I never told no man I love him. We on speakerphone. He like, man, I love you. The power of the dad is such a pervasive, powerful thing. When I was 20 years old, and the Kirk Franklin thing, you can call in. Anybody can call in if you're out there and you want to call in. The Kirk Franklin thing really has blown me back, because what it did for me was it opened up another reason for me to go hard. It opened up another reason for me to go hard. And so for me in this work and the men that I know, what part could I contribute but Kirk Franklin? Man, I'm so happy for you to have found your biological father, because I got a text this morning. Many men have not done so. Many men are afraid to even submit their DNA, right? Because of the makeup from which they were made. Through all that trauma, they've been traumatized about their father. It's a tough thing. So Kirk Franklin essentially, then he turns around, Monique, and names the album Father's Day. Mm-hmm. Right? Which literally, as I was saying, a fatherhood revolution is brewing. This is going to take this thing to a whole nother level. And I am so happy. I went on this Instagram and I wrote and I shared with him how important it is. I said, I am the son of Reverend Columbus, man, a gospel pioneer. This was before his time. And my dad, I didn't get to learn to play the piano the way my dad learned to play the piano. My brother got it because my brother's so gifted, he played by ear. Out of the 10 of us, 7 of us can sing. So, but not my parents were the product of divorce at the beginning of the process when then President Ronald Reagan announced that no-fault divorce and signed the No-Fault Divorce Act as the governor, and it went across the country and it blew the house. We destroyed a lot of families. It probably was more damaging than the crack epidemic, because it's an ongoing policy. It's never been addressed. It continues to happen. We are getting in and out of relationships and not even caring about the kid and what they see. So the kid, the black boy who sits in the corner of the classroom, who's always in trouble, kicked out, emotional, except for if he got a father, he's not necessarily that emotional unless emotions are being taught. But the boy is the most kicked out of education, so let me kick this boy out. It's no different. I don't want to deal with him, especially if he's got these emotions. So if he's got, T.D. Jakes call it he-motions. There was these studies and these things that are out here when it comes to fatherhood is absolutely amazing to come across. It's absolutely amazing, right? So, again, if there's any fathers out there, you can call in at this time. We can have this conversation, but I want to tell you, breaking down this Kirk Franklin, when he first opened the video, is such a powerful thing, because you can see he's in his rawest emotion as he sits down to do this documentary. And then he starts it out by saying his name, and you can see how heavy it is. And what he's doing is what a lot of fathers do. Because at one point he hadn't talked to his son in 2 years. I can tell you a story when I'm working in the barbershop. We was on Schoolcraft in Evergreen. After I lost my job in 2006, we moved. I lost a number of houses. We lost housing and everything, so we moved on Burt Road, and we was on Burt Road a year. This was the first time on Burt Road my house was broken into. I never had my house broken into as long as I lived in the city. This is the first time my house was broken into. But while we were there, I started working. And, the thing that stood out more than anything was I could literally see on the child, even right now, Monique, we got a mentoring program. They don't even invest in their boys like that. Well, they're looking for, we don't want to come over here because you charge. We're going to go over here. No, our biggest thing in our mentoring program is we use fathers, and you got to be there. We're not with the truancy. We will not reward negative behavior. And a lot of people believe that their child should be rewarded for negative behavior. In other words, if you can't be present out of 14 weeks, if you can't do 11, 12 days out of 14 weeks, you got 2-day sessions. If you can't do 24 out of 28 days, your chances of success in any endeavor is going to pull you back to that system. So you're going to be dependent on the system because that's what you're being trained to be dependent on. Now, what does this system look like? It doesn't necessarily mean that what it means is the system is you're fatherless. The court and the government plays dad. You weaponize dad against the father. And even if the father is present, you still play games to weaponize it, right? And then as the fathers who play the game like, I don't know what you're talking about. My son Kevit, the story was crazy because, the situation when his mom wasn't always who she said he was, and I never believed, right? But when when I saw him, I began to ask for DNA. There was nothing I could do because she was in a marriage. I could fight, go to war. I could do all of that. My mom and people told me, Cal, let it go. Can you imagine how many men and how many children who are in this position because of the system? Met a lady over the weekend. She had 4 kids. She had 3 fathers to her 4 kids. None of them was in the system but the one that just did not cooperate with it. And because of his pay, it was nothing but $50. She gave it to the son on a card. But all he wants to do is play video games with his son. He doesn't want to discipline his son the whole night. Now, that's her story. But she talked about the other 2 so eloquently. And that one of them was caring for all of them. Right? But the one thing that I never got to ask and truly would love to ask is, why do we put the cart before the horse? Why are we not marrying to have the child? Because of the system. So in the Kirk Franklin story, Kirk Franklin is doing his thing. They're doing an album. He doesn't know exactly what he's going to name the album. But while he's making this album, he's going through the process of learning something. So what happened was a particular family member passed away, and this ain't nothing but God. This is nothing but God. And the man showed up, and one of the aunties say, you know, this man dated your mama back in the day. And so because of his mannerisms, the rumors start swirling around the family that he might be the father. Now, what's incredible is when it come time for the DNA, the man said, we don't have to have no rumors or nothing. I'm going to send this information to your aunt, third party. Tell him he could take the test or not, but to kill this rumor or anything like that, here's the DNA information. He can do it and send it in. So he does it with his doctor. And he gets the call. And turns out this man is his biological father. Now, the first time when asked, many moons ago, the mom was like, there's no way he could be the daddy. I swear. Now, you ain't seen your son in 23 years already, man. She's swearing there's no way he could be the daddy. When I tell you, people don't recognize when a man becomes a father because they don't recognize his shift. His shift is a high level of wisdom and protection. A boy that's been traumatized is full blown in his protection mode. He will put himself in harm's way to protect everybody because that's what we've told him through his trauma. That's what he's been told he has to do. But what happens is that even if he's a boy of being molested, whatever the case may be, juvenile, whatever, you hear these young men say, that's my mama, I'll die for my mama, so and so and so and so, right? Well, you put those words in the air, and words have power. And so what happens is you beat and put yourself in a position where you have to go through that process. So it's so important for us to understand our words. So in protection, men, we protect you. I'm driving. She's not accustomed to this, Monique. My wife's not accustomed to this. I'm driving. A car could be putting on its brakes. the first thing I do as I'm pressing on the brake is pin her to the seat. Protection. That's the first thing I do. I put on the brake and I pin her back to the seat. Right? So protection. Right? And so in our words of wisdom, when you're heading down the wrong street, hey, come here. You don't want to go down there. You know what's down there? Protection. But because you do not value me. So my kids was at my party, my daughter and my son. My daughter was looking beautiful. My son was looking handsome. Right? But they feel a certain type of way, so they feel like when they get together, being silly is what they have to do. Right? And so they'll take pictures, crack jokes, and that's what they feel like the type of relationship that they got with their dad, right? But in the conversation of protection, there are things that they have learned that they may never, ever give credit to, right? Because everything tells them not to. So back to the Kirk Franklin, when this man finds out, you can tell that this man had no clue. And the first thing out of his mouth is, I had no idea that I had a son. And his whole body and his disposition and the reaction and where it was. And Kirk Franklin pulled up to the house. The man, his son grew up in that neighborhood. His oldest boy literally grew up in the same neighborhood. When they opened up the door to this man's house, he looked like he got $1 million house. He had no clue. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing and saying how incredible of a culture. Why do you think boys 5 to 11 are dying by suicide? Because the boys don't want to become what they're seeing. We discredit kids every day as to knowing exactly how powerful a child is. A child can develop and become anything they want. This is what we teach. Do not stay in the drama lane or loop. You could be anything you want to be. This is what I'm telling them. You don't have to wait till you're 15. You don't have to wait till you're 35. You don't have to wait till you're 45. You can be great right now. Right now. You can be great right now. You don't have to come up short at all. You could be rich right now. But here's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things you need to be a successful young man. Gotta have character. Gotta be able to read. Gotta have good hygiene. Right? You gotta have consistency. And you probably, more than anything, you gotta have respect. Respect goes a long way. And again, honestly, Monique, I say this when I say I quit. I don't have to do this. I'm really in the middle of contemplating. And I was explaining. I didn't contribute it to the culture. 38 years. I don't have to do this no more. All my boys are husbands and fathers. Every last one of them. I can ride off into the sunset. Sure, I can go, speak and do those things, but I can ride off into the sun. My success is not dictated by a Mercedes-Benz. My success is not dictated by $1 million house. My success is not dictated by what you're going to do. I can tell you right now, over the years, the biggest adversaries that I had in coaching, mentoring in the process, the biggest adversaries was the parent and educators. Because we were able to do something that you're not even educated to do. See, that's the difference. See, your education is for one thing. You're not educated to do what we do. And even if you do, you're doing it for what perspective? If you can walk away from it, it's not purpose. I wrestle every day about boys, men, husbands, fathers. Was on a call today. Why? Because that's what the culture needs. We don't need another casket. We don't need another police car. We don't need another rape. We don't need another murder. We most definitely need more fathers. And we need more fathers who are willing to fight to get into their children's lives regardless of the games that's being played. We need more responsible fathers. We need more fathers who not playing because you got this girl pregnant and you just going to act like you don't care. That is going to hunt you. You are going to reap what you have sown. And it could be your very son that you chose not to get into their life be the one that's shooting at you. You in the car like there was a drive-by. Who was that shooting at me? You don't know. It could be your very own son because you have not done what you were supposed to do. And the cycle will continue simply because you're afraid to face the system simply because you don't understand that somebody failed you. And I'm clear on this. If you can't read, somebody failed you. Can't do basic math, somebody failed you. If you can't greet, say yes sir, yes ma'am, somebody failed you. If you sitting in class, you cussing, and you in the first grade and you N-word and you talking about genitalia and all that, everybody involved with you has failed you. These kids are asking to be cared for. How do you care for a child? How do you care for a young man? How do you care for a young girl when you set the environment of failure? It's not a win thing. And you can dress it up how you want to dress it up. You can put it in full-blown drag. And everybody talking about all this stuff about just that whole conversation from Flip Wilson and all these actors, they've been doing this stuff. But now you got a problem with it. Mrs. Doubtfire, y'all was all in on the movie. Now you got a problem with it. Right? The only reason why that's the process. You got a problem with it. Oh, they got you hyped, overblown, all of that. Here's the truth. Kids need both parents. Just ask Kirk Franklin. He make it clear. He didn't have neither one. He didn't have a mama, a substance, and didn't know his real daddy. The aunt came through. Aunt, cousin, whatever he called her. She came through. At one point, he pulled up in the car. He had an auntie. She yelling, "Get your ass out the car." He said, "I need you to sign these papers." No, I need you to sign these papers. Please, just sign these papers for me, and I'll get out the car. We truly believe that ignorance is a way to raise a child. We do. We're not raising our children to compete. We raising our children to survive a system that a lot of people who don't teach that survival, their sons and daughters are flying. Why? Because what's going to happen? The very best is going to be selected by other cultures. They're going to want that. They don't want to. The one thing that I learned at the TD Jakes conference, it was very powerful. The CEO from Wells Fargo, and he said, Your culture is defined by the worst of your culture. And he was just talking about employment, the environment at the job. Man, so that documentary is worth literally, and I'm gonna figure something out, but it's worth literally putting it on the screen in a room full of people and watching the pain and the process for which this man had to go through, and to then come to the conclusion about the album and meeting this man for the first time, and you know, him being grown. He like, man, he told the man, he said, man, you're gonna have to hug me. You know, this is gonna be uncomfortable, but how do you make up for 50-something years in his 50s, right? You make up for 50-something years and you discover. You know, I tell my daughter to tell her brother Keith all the time, because that's who we communicate with. The door is always open. I love you. Never, not once did I ever tell you I didn't love you. Never, not once did I never tell you. You just got to, the way I parent is different. That's all. You have to have compliance. I can't help you if you're in denial. I can help you when you are in compliance. And that in itself is a powerful thing. Compliance. I'm destroyed. I go back to, and this is a real raw emotion for me, and I didn't know why, Monique. I didn't find out till I was 55 years old. Why were my mother and father split? Why would my mom tell us we can't go with our dad? That was early on. Eventually, she got tired of whipping me because that's where I was going. Everybody know Carol love his daddy. That's how I was growing up. I didn't know that I was my dad's favorite. He took me everywhere, dressed me up until I was 55. We do children such a disservice as parents when we believe that as a woman you can be two parents, and as a man you're not even worth being one. We literally believe that somehow just because you gave birth, you have one seed, I have 16 million. Millions of shots. You have one seed, and somehow because you birthed that seed, that says that you're more valuable. That's the system. Because in what research tells us is we're both equally as valuable. But there's one thing, and there's that one little component that separates us. When I am present, you live longer. There's nothing else out there. So you can challenge me. You can say, Carol, you just trying to be... No, I'm trying to get order. My prayer is that as a culture, we instantly shift and get order and get out of this space that she is better than me. When I can't do what she do, and she sure in the hell can't do what I do. That's tough. That's tough on a child. That's tough on a baby. We going over here to mentor today. We got to figure out some change on our mentoring, because we just have to. When we're taking the kids and handing them to other systems, but the other systems don't hand us those kids. Hand me your emotional kids. You don't let us work that out so we can send them back to your program. It's crazy. But this Kirk Franklin thing really shook up a lot of places. And a lot of people have been awakened to the value of fatherhood. It's just that simple. If you got a daddy, love him. Let him know you love him. Don't be a punk about it. Let your daddy know you love him. You know why? Because ain't nobody really telling them that they love them. You think, these kids think you're just supposed to get them everything, right? Dad, let me get this. Dad, let me... No, my job is to teach you, not give you everything. If I give you everything, you'll be no good. You'll be dependent on me. I'm not dependable when it comes to all giving you everything. Some stuff you gotta earn. But I'm not dependable when it comes to me having to give you something. Because, no. That's just not the way it is. And so we're going to wind this up in understanding. There's a poem I wrote. I'm going to see if I can remember. It said, Daddy, please come home. These words are written as I never felt your presence. Please come home. I know that wherever you are and whatever you're doing and wherever you might be could be more important, but Daddy, please come home. Whatever you and Mom have gone through, whatever you're doing that has taken you away from me, Daddy, please come home. Doesn't matter if you got a problem or if you're on drugs, or you could come home. We can work it out, Daddy. Because I'm asking you, Daddy, please come home. And so the dad then responds. And the dad says, I am home. You were dreaming. I've always been here, and I never left. And your dreams have come true. 'Cause Daddy is home. It's so important that when you become a parent, that the sacrifice is present in your work. Not your work being the sacrifice away. We all made those mistakes. You can only make them, right? One of my best quotes is, Mom, Dad, you can make all the money in the world, but you just can't make up time. I can't get them 10 years back. I can't get them 3 years back. I can't get yesterday back. But what I can do going forward is I can be consistently present, providing, protective, persuasive, and loving. And I can provide these things at a high amount of love without ever having to hit you, abuse you, molest you, beat you, give you away, cuss you out. It is so disheartening to watch us as a culture not grow out of beating our children. That is not love. If I hit you and then I try to convince you that I love you, I failed you tremendously. Shout out to Kirk Franklin, Father's Day Project. I'm all in, brother. As one of my guys would say, I'm all in. And we are here, and I'm ready as a fatherhood soldier to go to war for my position of order. My name is Calvin T. Mann. I'm the president and founder of Encourage Me. I'm Young and Good Fathers Only. This has been your Put Your Family First podcast. And with that being said, God bless you. Thank you for stopping by EMIYTV today and encourage me. I'm Young.